Charter Trustees, officers, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the Worshipful Mayor of Poole.
Please be seated. I would like to welcome Charter Trustees to this meeting of the Poole Charter Trustees and to the press and members of the public. In order to ensure the meeting is managed effectively, please could everyone follow these ground rules for speaking. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand physically to indicate, and remember to wait for the microphone to be handed to you before you do so. Where there appears to be consensus in the meeting for a motion, I will ask if there is any dissension. When a formal vote is required, this will be carried out by a show of hands. Councillors are advised that there is no live stream of this meeting, but a recording will be uploaded to the website for members of the public to view the meeting. Before we start the business on the agenda, as you know, the Charter Trustees is a non-political body, with the primary objective being to maintain and promote the historic and ceremonial traditions of Poole. I am keen that we all work together to maintain this objective. Agenda item 1, apologies. I will ask the Honorary Clerk to report the apologies received for this meeting.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And first of all, apologies from your Honorary Clerk, Graham Farrant, and apologies from Councillors Beasley, David Brown, Burton, Challoner, Chapman Law, Dalton Gibson, Gillett, Haynes, Miles, Moore and Waite.
Thank you. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Honorary Clerk, can you report on any declarations of interest received?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and no declarations of interest received.
Thank you. Agenda item 3, confirmation of minutes and matters arising. Charter Trustees are asked to receive the minutes of the meeting held on 26th of June 2023 and to consider any matters arising. Councillor Rampton.
Thank you. I sent my apologies on the 21st of May, but they haven't been recorded.
Thank you. Councillor Hadley.
My apologies, Madam Mayor. I've literally just read, but apologies for today's meeting. Councillor Rice sends her apologies. Thank you.
Thank you. That's everything, yeah? Yes. We wanted to ask if it would be convenient and suitable for future meetings to start at 6 p.m. instead of 5 p.m. Is that not what you meant?
No. Sorry, Madam Mayor, if we could just confirm at this point the accuracy of the minutes subject to the apologies for Councillor Rampton.
Amendments will be made, yeah? Agreed. Seconded. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, so to go back to the changing of the scheduled time for future meetings, would it be agreeable to everybody to change from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m? Yeah? Do we need a show of hands?
I think it would be useful.
Yeah. Can I have a show of hands, please? That's agreed. Thank you. Councillor Rampton?
Thank you. I personally feel that 7 o'clock is a better time. It's the time that the Poole Council meetings used to meet at. It's quite difficult to get into the town centre and find a parking space at this time. I'm sure it'll be better at 6, but it might not be, it might be better at 7 o'clock. That's my personal opinion. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, maybe just to explain, so I think the suggestion is to change the next meeting or the remainder of the meetings for the current year to 6 p.m. You set your schedule of meetings for the year, and when that comes back up, we could perhaps look at 7 o'clock. I would like to have conversations with the team here, though, in terms of the building, in terms of access, because we may not be able to hold meetings much later, so we need to make sure that we can work on that. But if we can work on that, we can research that in time for when you agree your full schedule of meetings for the year.
Shall I go on to agenda? Yeah. Thank you. Agenda item 4, Charter Mayor's Communications. Before I update you on my recent activities, I'm sorry to have to inform you of the sudden passing of former councillor David Newell on 18th of September. Our thoughts are with his wife Jane, who is also a former councillor, and our thoughts are also with her family. David served on the former Borough of Poole Council from 2003 to 2007, and again from 2015 to 2019. Please, can we take a moment for reflection? Would you please stand? Thank you. Please be seated. I shall now update you on my recent activities during my mayoral events. I won't go on too long because sometimes it can get a bit too much. So I'll just highlight the ones that stand out the most, actually. 29th of June, we visited the Arts University Bournemouth for their showcase of their work so far for their year, for their final presentations. There were presentations in the fashion department, photography, a fantastic display of props that had been made for theatre and screen, absolutely incredible. And it made me feel absolutely proud to be a part of the town, to be the mayor of the town where we have this fabulous university and the opportunity for our students to show their flair and their skills and talents. And the 5th of July, I went back to Bournemouth University, not the Arts University this time, the university itself, for the Students' Union Impact Report launch, which was led by the student community. It was wonderful to see the students supporting each other and the good work they do within the Bournemouth University community, and to listen to some of their lovely stories and their journeys of how they got to where they were, and to hear about their aspirations for the future. That was very, very heartwarming. On the 12th of August, I visited the Broadstone Horticultural Society Summer Show and presented the prizes. That was lovely. Beautiful flowers, fantastic vegetables, things that you couldn't imagine could be so... They looked like they were on a film set, some of them. They were so beautiful and shiny and colourful. It was lovely. It was just really lovely to meet the people of the community there again, the local Broadstone people, and see all the work and the passion that they put into growing all these wonderful things. 29th of August, I visited Dorset Mind, which is actually the charity that I have chosen to support as much as I can during my mayoral year. It was fascinating to learn about the work that they do in Dorset, in Bournemouth and in Poole, and the fundraising that they do, and how mental health is still the poor relation in terms of funding and support, and I really would like to help as much as I can in getting over that stigma, which still does seem to exist, even though we hear a lot about it in the media and, you know, in social media, on the press these days. It is still one of those areas of health that needs a lot more support and a lot more funding. But it was fascinating to hear their experiences there. 26th of August, Diverse Abilities, another wonderful local charity that I'm really feel fortunate in being able to support and visit. They had their summer fete. It was lovely, lovely to be there and share their lovely, happy moments. The same day, I went to the Parkstone Community Come Outside event on Ashley Road, which was lovely to meet the shopkeepers and the local people and to bring the community together and to have that lovely experience of seeing how people can come together in a community and support each other, and to visit some of the local shops that I, even though I live locally, hadn't actually been into. So that was a really nice experience. 1st of September, we were very fortunate to be taken out on a Royal Navy patrol boat to see the, it was the air show, wasn't it? Yeah, the air show. Unfortunately, I'm not a very good sailor, so I'm not going to say any more about that. But it was an interesting experience. We were very grateful for their hospitality and their support, most definitely. 12th of September, I went to the Rotary Club of Poole to their annual lunch, and I was inducted as their honorary member. That was a privilege and an honour, of course. 15th of September, Roots to Roots. I visited the homeless charity here in Poole Town. Again, a wonderful charity that does very valuable work in supporting people with not just homeless people, but people who are struggling within the community, you know, living alone in certain situations. That was wonderful. 7th of October, we went to the Nigerian community Dorset Independence Anniversary, celebrating 63 years of independence. That was absolutely fantastic. It was so lively and so colourful, and the music was amazing and the food was amazing. They made us so welcome. It really was a fabulous, fabulous. It was so lovely to meet the local Nigerian community and to chat with them and to get to know a little bit about their culture and their experience. Then on the 9th of October, I went to the Quentin Blake art exhibition at the Lighthouse. Many of us that have read the Roald Dahl books will know that Quentin Blake did the illustrations for those books. So it was really nice to see some of the original drawings that started their life before they got into final print. Then 12th of October, I was very fortunate to present the prizes for the Poole Sea Cadets at their AGM. Lovely bunch of young people. It's so lovely to see young people still involved with local organisations, and I felt very proud to be able to present their prizes to them. And then most recently, on the 15th of October, I was at the service of the Sea at St James's Church. Again, the Poole Sea Cadets were there, the Sea Scouts, RNLI, HM Coast Guard. It was a really lovely celebration of the sea, and it was actually quite entertaining. The sermon was given by the bishop, actually, the Bishop of Salisbury. But there was a lot going on, so they involved the Scouts and the cadet organisation, the children, and they got them doing bits and pieces, kind of a very interactive service. It was great. I would highly recommend it. If it's like that every year, I'll definitely be going again next year. That's the end of my communications. Thank you. Agenda item 5, report of the Civic Working Group. I call on Councillor Marion Lepodovan to present this report.
Thank you. I think I'll stand up because I'm more comfortable that way. You probably remember that the Charter Trustees set up the Civic Working Group in June last year, comprising of past and present mayors and civic team. So the current mayor, sheriff and deputy mayor and past mayors. And our most recent meeting was on the 11th of September, and we agreed at that we thought it was appropriate to meet approximately 6 to 8 weeks before each of the Charter Trustees meetings. So hopefully that will continue. One major topic of concern, well, there are two really. One is the fact that we will be hearing in due course that we have quite a lot of money in the Charter Trustees. So there was discussion around what we might think about doing with it. No proposals, no conclusions. But the main proposal that I'm bringing to this meeting is to expand the membership of the Civic Working Group. You can appreciate that the current civic team plus past mayors is not a huge number, especially when some of the past mayors are very rarely attending. And because of the fact that finances and what to do with our budget surplus was a major topic, we think it would be appropriate to include the budget signatories in the membership and also to expand the membership. We didn't decide on or didn't recommend a particular number, so that is for discussion and decision tonight. And the means of recruiting such additional members, whether it be volunteers or what. That is also part of the proposal that we discuss that tonight and hopefully come to a decision. So I suppose I'd better read the formal recommendation. So it's recommended that the Charter Trustees approve the changes to the membership of the Civic Working Group as suggested. So including the budget signatories and additional members to be decided.
Councillor Howell.
Thank you. Just in terms of what we do with the surplus we have, or part of it, we previously talked about having some form of grant scheme that people could apply for, just small grants to help local communities and initiatives. And I just wonder whether the working group could look at that and how we initiate a proposal like that. Would it be appropriate to do that now?
So, yeah, so use of reserves is being discussed. We will be putting together some kind of workshop/meeting to discuss this in more detail. There were some suggestions made at the most recent Civic Working Group, which we are still examining for suitability. But all members, all trustees, I should say, are encouraged to either contact the Civic team or indeed pass it through the Mayor or Deputy Mayor if you have any particular suggestions as to how those reserves should be used.
Councillor Slade.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just slightly sort of bothered by the fact that the working group has met and decided to expand the working group numbers, but hasn't decided who should be in it. And we're going to decide to allow them to do that, but nobody's going to decide who's going to be in it. So when will somebody decide? Does that include all of us? Does it include some of us? Who is going to make that decision? Or is there going to be another meeting to decide that? It feels like we're going around the houses a bit.
Councillor Podovan.
Thank you. Our thought was that we would come up between us this evening with a decision either about membership here and now or certainly the means of recruiting members. So it's, as far as I'm concerned, I hope we will be discussing that and coming to some sort of decision in the next few minutes.
Is that okay, Councillor Slade? Is that suitable? Councillor Hadley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I guess a lot of working groups have a very clear and specific task to do. And it seems the Civic Working Group, I thought initially that was looking at where the home for the Mayoralty and the Charter Trustees was. That was an earlier iteration. It seems to almost be an inner group of the Charter Trustees, and I would welcome it being wider than just existing mayors, because I think there is something about trying to think in terms of what is the purpose of the Charter Trustees, what is the future of what we're doing, especially given the purpose as written in this report is very wide, because it's effectively rehearsing papers and things that might come to this group for decision. So I think it would be sensible to have more people in it. Exactly how many, I'm not sure. I think Councillor Stay's frustration that we really need a clear recommendation about what would be quorum, what would be the number we'd want, and what would be the means by which we might select, volunteer or coerce people to do it.
Councillor Rampton.
Thank you. Is the working group open to all Poole Charter Trustees, even if just as observers rather than decision makers?
So we haven't yet expanded the attendance to observers. That's something that absolutely we can consider. I think the idea behind this recommendation was to ultimately it's incumbent on volunteers, really, people who want to come involved. And the question really is, is there anyone here tonight who wants to put their hat in the ring for formal approval? And also a discussion and an agreement, hopefully, on a max number before the meeting itself becomes too unwieldy. So, and promote proper discussion at the meetings. I think we need a subset of members who are able to attend regularly, but without it becoming a kind of a elongated kind of talk shop, really. So that's really the purpose of the recommendation tonight.
Councillor Trent.
Yeah, thank you. I think to put a little bit more flesh on the bone of that idea, I think the budget signatories were the obvious people to invite, and one of them attended the last meeting. Both were invited, but one attended, because I think that is the responsible thing to do. But I think it's really open to people who are interested in the way the Charter Trusts work, civic events and so on. And, I think it needs to be widened, because if it's just ex-mayors, then there's a tendency for it to look backwards, or it has done, I think, in the past. I think it's to bring forward fresh ideas and to add a little bit of life to it. And just going back to the previous question from Councillor Howell, I think when it looks to possible grants, we had talked about the possibility of making a grant to the Society for Poole for their Beating of the Bands event, which they've got planned for next year, and they're planning something quite major. Another one that's been floated is to repeat our grant to the Poole-Sherborne Twinning Association, and they did quite a bit with last year's grant, and I think, that is worth looking at. And the other one, and I think it came from the Sheriff, who's very keen to do something, is that the D-Day Memorial on Poole Quay, the existing D-Day Memorial is hidden away, and it's probably quite a nice place to hold an event in inclement weather. But I think there's a feeling that there needs to be something on the quay, maybe in the same general area that the memorial to the American sailors that went over, and, the Americans that embarked in Poole. And because next year is the 80th anniversary of D-Day, and it will probably be the last anniversary where anyone will be alive who actually goes back to that day. I think it's so... I think we were down to the last one or two survivors of D-Day at the event earlier on this year. So I do think that having a memorial in time, and all of these things would obviously have a cost to them, but it would be responsible use of the balances we've got, and very much one-off. You know, it's not like taking on an additional long-term expenditure. And I think expanding the membership, maybe by an additional couple of people over and above the budget signatories, would actually help that to be a little bit more representative and a little bit more forward-looking. So I do hope that we can have a couple of volunteers, you know, I'm personally very keen to see that expanded, because at the moment, well, we've had some meetings where we've had as few as 2 or 3 people there. We had more last time, but you know, we really need a few more people, because we're actually looking at the meat and bones of what's actually going on, and not sort of not just reporting back on civic things. So that's my thoughts on it anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Councillor Andrews.
Thank you very much. I would like to make a slight amendment to the proposal the councillors made behind me, to be more precise, to expand, or to the number to be 7 people on the working party, and that can include past mayors who are still councillors, but with a caveat that those who are past mayors be asked whether they actually want to be part of the Civic Working Party, or if they think they've done their stint, that's it, they're not wanting to get further involved, then clearly there would be a vacancy in that number of 7 people for effectively people to be co-opted, who perhaps may even have ambitions to become a mayor or initially sheriff in the future. Definitely the budget signatories should be involved, because obviously that would be helpful. But clearly, if there are people who are passionate about promoting Poole via the Poole Charter Trustees, then then they can volunteer. They can come as observers. And indeed, I think it would be useful if the date of the working party is publicised to all Poole Charter Trustees, on the basis that you can come as an observer, because I think you do it on Teams. Don't send out the invite to everybody, but if you do want to be sent the link, then you can chip in, because clearly next year there is this, as Councillor Trent has mentioned, this effectively once every 10-year event of the D-Day celebrations, and there isn't much around Poole, key area, and with some of the councillors, we bumped into some Americans after the on the quay, and they were wandering around. There's nothing. You go to Weymouth, there is a massive memorial on the promenade at Weymouth about what they did. There's nothing in Poole, and I think it would be a very worthy investment, and it would promote Poole. People have their photograph taken adjacent to it, etc., etc. I think it's something which definitely the working party should be thinking about. And clearly, the beating of the bounds, I don't know too much about it. I don't think it's been done every year. But if perhaps a small sum of money could be granted to the Society of Poole to effectively organise it, because I don't think we've got officer capacity to organise it, and it's something that organisation, I think, would be passionate about getting involved. But I would say that it should be 7. Obviously, the sheriff, the mayor, the past mayor, there's 3 already. The budget signatories, that takes you up to 5. You've got 2 more vacancies. Now, I think we've got 2 councillors who have been past mayors who could. But if they're not interested, then some other people could be co-opted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. I think definitely I agree with what you're saying. I think it would be a good idea to go out to those previous mayors and ask everybody who is a previous mayor if they do want to belong, and if they don't, then fair enough, that we can accept that they have given their resignation from it, if you like. But I really would be very keen to see some new councillors involved in this, with a fresh approach, with fresh eyes, and some different ideas about the future and about how the Charter Trustees is going to progress in Poole. and how that can develop as well. It would be great to have a fresh approach. I think we were looking originally at a figure of about 9 people, weren't we?
Madam Mayor, you've got a couple of that. I was allowing the debate to continue, but I mean, 9 is a. I mean, I'll be honest with you. You can choose any number. I was wanting to just rehearse where we got to, why we established the working group, and before the working group, officers were bringing reports to the Charter Trustees, which wasn't necessarily reflecting the views of the Charter Trustees. So the working group was there to allow the Charter Trustees to drive the agenda, to make suggestions. I have to say, we've found a number of working groups where we have only had 2 members in attendance, which has been extremely frustrating. I think 7, I take that as that may be suitable. The mayor, the deputy mayor, and the sheriff, the two budget signatories. We do have 3 past mayors still on the Charter Trustees, and I think when we set up the working group, the Charter Trustees were very keen that the past mayors were involved. But I do take the point around fresh ideas, and I think that was debated in that meeting when we had that at Upton House. So I was wondering whether it's 9 or even 11, I'll be honest with you, because I'm very conscious that members can't always make every meeting, and to actually get input and direction and steer would be much more valuable from a larger number of maybe 11 is the top, I perhaps suggest. But not all members are going to attend every meeting. So I was perhaps thinking of 11. We always said that we would invite members if they had a particular interest in a topic, they could attend. I have to say I don't think we've had many suggestions come forward where we've been able to use that option. But so I was perhaps erring on the side of 11, Madam Mayor. But again, there are members who've got their hands raised.
Thank you, Honourable Clerk. Councillor Rampton.
I'm not volunteering, by the way. I'm sure Mr Jones will correct me if I've got this wrong, but I thought at last night's Bournemouth Charter Trustees meeting, there was an agreement that people, as it was on Teams, people could come along and observe. And I think there was a strong feeling from some members, particularly new members, that they would like to have a bit of an oversight or a bit more knowledge about the budget. And certainly if we're talking here about maybe making some small grants to organisations, I'm sure that people would have a few. So I just think in terms of openness and transparency, I think Councillor Andrews already said it, I think I'd probably formally like to propose that we do open it up. And you can't do everything by a huge committee, I understand that, but you could have people able to attend on Teams and to observe. And I'd seek a seconder, right, really, for that. Have I got that wrong?
Madam Mayor, so last night's debate was around the budget workshop meeting and allowing members to attend the budget workshop, which would include those sorts of issues. It's been suggested that we advise members of the dates of the working groups, and I don't see an issue with that either, I'll be honest with you. So I'm happy for that to be approached. But just to clarify, Bournemouth's debate last night was around the budget workshop, not the civic working group.
Councillor Hadley.
Thank you. Yes, I was actually, I put my hand up to second what Councillor Andrews has said, but I'm happy to, Councillor Rampton's view was very similar in terms of the idea that we open up so that other people can observe. Whether it's 7, 9, 11, I'm not too worried about. I do think that we should be approaching the past mayors and saying, do you want to occupy a space on this or not? And maybe over time it is more just that it's the current mayoral party and other volunteers, whether they were previous mayors or not. It seems we're adding without taking, and there's something about if previous mayors want to give input, that's really valid because they've walked the turf, they know exactly, that's I think why we initially suggested that. But if they're going to occupy a space and never turn up, then that's clearly no use to anyone. So I think we do need to be clear about inviting them to step forward or backward and make space for others. Thank you.
Councillor Slade.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So just, I'm content with 9, 11, whatever figure works. I think it's a sensible way to do it. I just wanted to touch, while you're making notes, on something that hasn't been considered yet, which has come up in recent weeks, and that is the situation whereby the BCP Council apparently, Richard, you feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, has no right to use the crest of Poole also has no right to use the crest of the town of Bournemouth. And we have to use a crest that doesn't exist of BCP Council. This would apply for things like road signs, etc. The Charter Trustees are the only people that are allowed to use that, but the Charter Trustees do not have the power to delegate that right to BCP Council. I've had various responses to that comment, from just do it, to who's going to arrest you, to why the hell are we worrying about things like this. I won't allocate those comments to people, but they're people in this room. But I think there is a conversation that needs to be had by these working group or somebody on behalf of the Charter Trustees around what the Constitution of the Charter Trustees actually allows for, because if we're going to be held hostage to a constitution that isn't workable, then it needs to be seriously considered. You know, we're not going to make up a coat of arms for BCP Council, which is purely a council. We live in Poole, or we live in Bournemouth, or we live in Christchurch. They have a crest, and for organisations not be allowed to use them because nobody considered who had the right to use it and who had the right to delegate it seems a little bit of a problem. So please can I ask that the Civic Working Party can resolve that? Thank you.
The Mayor has asked me to respond to you, Councillor Slade. So you're absolutely right. The College of Arms, so when the coat of arms was transferred from the Borough of Poole to the Charter Trustees, you are custodians of that coat of arms. That is granted to you by royal assent from Her Majesty the Queen, the late Majesty the Queen, and the immoral bearing rules do dictate that no one can use those coats of arms except the Charter Trustees, and you cannot, I have this in writing from the College of Arms, that you can't grant permission to other organisations to use that. Now, obviously you've had the flag, and there is a Poole flag, and there is elements of the coat of arms that has been recreated, but we can certainly look at that in more detail, and I can certainly take an item to the working group to explore that in more detail. But that applies to all coats of arms that have been granted by royal assent. So it's not just applicable to Poole and Bournemouth, that applies to Christchurch and other coats of arms.
Can I just come back on that by saying one of the suggestions was that BCP Council could give the money required to do the thing that it wants to do to the Charter Trustees, and the Charter Trustees do it. So, for example, create the sign, and therefore the Charter Trustees would still be granting that sign. Just an idea.
Thank you. Councillor Plodovan.
Thank you, Chair. I take the point about asking all former mayors whether they wish to be involved. My concern would be if they say yes, but then do not get involved, we're more or less back to square one. So that either means that we have to defer a decision tonight till we found out, well, because they're not here, the people concerned, so we can't ask them here and now. I would put a bit of an amendment that we make it perhaps 9, looking towards being 9, which would be the 6 current members plus the signatories and 1. But maybe we actually, I'm getting in a muddle here, actually look at appointing, say, 3 extra people on the basis that so far 2 of those eligible have shown by their actions that they're not interested, but we can't be sure here and now. So if we said tonight, adding the 2 budget signatories and 3 others, possibly even taking volunteers tonight and setting it up, then we're ready to go. And then we're not dependent on the 2 past mayors who are not here, whether they're interested or not. It does mean the number is going to be indeterminate at the moment. And of course, will continue to grow as more people cease to be mayor. For instance, Tony, after next May, will be an additional one because he will be replaced with a new sheriff, numerically. I don't think I've made myself at all clear, but I know.
Madam Mayor, I think you have made. Yeah, I think it is clear. I think the other issue we have, of course, as you said, alluded to at the last point, by 2027 we will potentially have another 3 members who will be either on the civic table here or be past mayors. So that was why I was perhaps suggesting 11. I know that may seem quite a lot, but I think that does allow us to grab quite a view from members. That would be the 8 that we've identified here. We could identify 3 more. If there are 3 volunteers this evening, then we could have 11. If the other members, if the past mayors indicate they don't wish to participate anymore, we could then come back and seek another 2 at your next meeting. But I think that would give us a greater number of members to put input into the working group and formulate recommendations that has member support.
Can I clarify? What I was really suggesting is that we appoint, apart from the budget signatories, those fixed, definitely, 3 others tonight, which could mean the membership is 11, but might mean it's only 9. 11 is not too many. Mr. Jones has already suggested that number. 9 would be very workable.
Thank you. So would somebody like to second Councillor Podavan's proposal? Councillor Walters, thank you. Councillor Hadley, did you want to speak?
Thank you. We have been a bit all over the place in our discussion, and I just wanted to go back to the coat of arms, if I may, ever so briefly, because I have studied heraldry a little bit, and I'm sure that the intent, I'm pretty sure the Queen didn't paint her own coat of arms, she got someone else to do it. So there's kind of something about, as the Charter Trustees, and I know the current issue is actually in Bournemouth, not in Poole, but if we choose to have the coat of arms on something, you would expect that we would employ someone to do it. If they happen to work for BCP Council, I don't think that's outside the spirit of it. The reason that the heralds would come down on us is because someone was trying to impersonate or pretend to be somebody else. So I think we're interpreting the rules rather actually imprecisely. I think if it's something about Poole, we own the coat of arms, we have the rights to that. If we want it somewhere, then we want somebody to do it for us, surely that's our right to do that. I think if BCP Council were going to use it in a different way, in a different sense, then that would be crossing the line. But I think we need to be finding ways to do stuff and not otherwise. And I'm quite happy to own up to it. I said just do it. And I think we need to have that approach. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, it would be useful to, if we, coming back to the member, I'll come back to the coat of arms in a moment. I think it would be useful just to agree the appointment of 3 members here in addition to the membership that has already been established, and we can explore whether the past members wish to do that. It would be great to have 3 names, so we could do that this evening, although there may be other members not present who may be interested in that role. So I think that would be useful to have that resolved this evening. And I think, as I said, the coat of arms, I think it needs to come back to the working group. And Councillor Hadley, if you're not on the working group, it may be that you wish to attend as an expert or an advisor or an observer at that particular point. Well, Madam Mayor, I think in terms of your business, you do talk about consensus in terms of the numbers. I don't think there's anybody objecting to appointing 3 additional members to the working group, and no one's shaking their heads or waving their hands in the air. So I think you can do that on consensus. But as I said, it would be useful to have the names of those 3 members, or at least any volunteers in this room at the moment, so we can work with those and then go to the wider membership for any other names. Budget signatories plus 3. Yeah.
So should we ask them to approach us after a meeting if they want to put their name forward?
If they want to indicate now, they can. Yeah. If we haven't got any volunteers, we can do that after the meeting. But obviously, it is useful to have names already if anyone's wishing to be added.
Councillor Hadley.
Yeah, I think I've been volunteered by Ms. Root. That's fine, I'm happy to volunteer.
Excellent, thank you. Would anybody else like to put themselves forward as a volunteer? Councillor Walters? Thank you. One more? Councillor Goodall, thank you very much. That's it, we've got our three. Excellent, thank you. Can we move on to the next agenda item now?
Yeah, we've got this road sign.
No, Madam Mayor, I was suggesting that is an item that goes back to the working group for further discussion around the advice that we've received from the College of Arms.
Councillor Podovan?
And flag, because the Charter Trustees previously did agree about the flag, but nothing seems to have ever happened about it.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to agenda item 6, the finance update for September 2023. I call on Matthew Filmer, responsible financial officer, to present this report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Charter Trustees. So this is a budget update for the end of September, and I'll refer you to Appendix A of the report, which details the agreed budget for 23-24, plus our forecasts for the end of the year. We're currently forecasting an underspend of £5,900, and that's principally because we're going to underspend on hospitality and not carry out civic service as planned in the budget. Now that 5,900 variance, it isn't clear on Appendix A, but if you look at the very bottom of Appendix A in terms of the reserves, we'd plan to use just over 24,000 to support this year's budget, 10,000 towards the coronation events, which has been fully spent, and the rest to freeze council tax. You'll see we're now forecasting to use just over 18,000. So the use of reserves is reduced than what the budget proposed. The report also sets out the need for our budget workshop, which we traditionally do in advance of the January budget setting meeting. We'll look at the recharges between the council and the Charter Trustees. We'll look at an update on the tax base, so that's the number of properties that we levy the council tax charge on, because that can work in our favour or it can go against. We'll look at reserves and its usage, and we'll also look at some of the budget lines, etc. I'm not going to go perhaps into too much of the membership of that group, but I would strongly recommend as many people attend that as possible. So perhaps open it up than what we've done previously. So I think we're going to get some dates in the diary, and whether it's on Teams or whatnot, we'll send an invite. And lastly, Madam Mayor, it's not on the report, but just an update to Charter Trustees that the audit for the 22-23 accounts and the annual governance statement were complete. It was complete post writing of this report. So we've got a clean bill of health, and the notice of that audit is on the Charter Trustees website for the public to view.
Thank you very much, Matthew. So if there's nothing else, no other business, I will now close the meeting. Thank you.
Please be upstanding for the departure of the Civic Party.